All right, all right. And those are very insightful sentiments. Daktari, maybe just a touch on what he has mentioned is he said the new funding model is not really he's actually termed it as a miss, as we'd say. Now, looking at the means testing instrument that were used to place students in, I understand, a number of bands or a number of categories. What would you say, Daktari, is the workability of this means testing instruments that maybe you feel has made the new funding model be a miss?
Yeah, thank you, and I totally agree with Rono um, that any education system that is progressive, it has those key indicators. There's research and innovation. It should appeal across the cultural, but most importantly is affordability and accessibility. Those are the most important component of any given education system. And I already alluded to this, that in Kenya, where we are, we've had two constitutional dispensations, the constitution after independence and the constitution of Kenya in 2010. One of the unique things about the constitution of Kenya 2010, there are three or four. Number one, that it introduced a devolved system of governance. Then number two, it reduced imperial presidency. And most importantly, it introduced the Bill of Rights, that is the old Chapter 4. One of the Bill of Rights is that everyone, according to Article 43, which I already mentioned, that every person has a right to education. If you read it together with Article 53, it also says that every child has a right to free and basic education. Now, look at this new model. And for the sake of the viewers, I'll need to break it down a bit. But this is, we have stakeholders, we have the government, and this is what the government has put in place. The government put in place the University Fund. It has put in place Higher Education Loans Board. It has put in place the Kenya University and Colleges Placement Service. Those are three pillars that the government base on in terms of looking at how do we ensure that this funding model is working. Now, the means testing instrument that you talked about, I think it was envisioned to really address the issue about scholarship that was specifically on the university, to focus on the scholarship for the needy students. Then number two, there's the HELP that specifically was supposed to churn out loans. Then there is the household contribution, where that every parent is expected to give out a certain amount of money. But Theo, let me tell you this, and the viewers, that we also forget that within all the stakeholders I've mentioned, we also have the student. And for this matter, we have a student in a public university, we have student in private university. And all these, they have what we call a legitimate expectation, based that this is already enshrined in the Constitution. So every student is expecting that the government of the day must fund education. We cannot have two things about it. So whatever kind of instrument they introduce, ultimately, we should not even be talking about a loan. We should not be talking about scholarship. We should be talking about a grant, that the student should be given grant. But the catch here is it sustainable? And that's the bit that we talk about the economics. Is it sustainable? Because as we have this group coming into the university, there's another one coming the next day. What the conversation that we need to be talking about here is now, how do we make this education affordable, accessible, and also sustainable, so that we don't get in a crisis within every cycle? So you look at, for example, the means testing, where that you are supposed to look at the household and see whether the father is working, the mother is working, and etc. Look at this. They are testing this at the point of admission of the student, the university. They are not testing how the parents were doing when you were high school. If a parent was working today, tomorrow, God forbid, he has stopped working, just even a day after a student has applied, what happens? It implies whatever category the student will be placed in, they will not be able to afford education. So what have we done? We have killed the dream of this young man, this young lady, and everyone who is relying on the education system. What happened to the old model that we are reverting to? There was a block capitation. Block capitation where every student, you are allocated this amount of money. But now the problem also comes, there's another key stakeholder we are calling the university. The university, because of how the economy is, each course has a different cost. So assuming you are doing medicine, for instance, the cost of doing medicine could be higher compared to another course. So if the government continue to give a block capitation, it implies that the university could not operate at its optimum. Failing to operate at optimum, it affects the lecturers in place, it affects the workers who are there because they are not paid their salaries in good time. They are not able to meet the statutory deductions on their pay slips. So ultimately, the student might say, yes, the government has paid, given me a scholarship, has given me all this money. But at the end of the day, the university is suffering. So how do you strike a balance? What we are saying is the government has to go back to use data correctly. At Trinlap Consulting Limited, we don't only believe in data. We believe in strategic information, where you transfer this data to strategic information that you can be used to make correct decisions. So for the government to make the correct decision is, can we look at all these instruments that we are putting in place? And I thank God because the Kenya Human Rights Commission went ahead and so the matter was in court and there was an order to bar the model. Yeah. Reason being, there was no public participation. That's number one. Then number two, it was very expensive. It was abstract. No one could understand how they could arrive at band 1, band 2, band 3. And the constitution is also very clear. You can never discriminate people. So that the discrimination to the extent that this student feels, oh my goodness, now I'm the poorest in this system. So what we are saying is that unless we have a very courageous and candid discussion about this, we are heading the wrong direction. It's better we revert back to the old model, ensure that our students, they are in school, their legitimate expectation is met.
All right, Daktari, thank you so much for that. Maybe to you, Moses, Daktari says it's better we revert to the old funding model. Do you share the same sentiments, just briefly, because we should be winding up?
Well, coming from a private institution, I can say with the old system, there were still errors that can be corrected. And one of the errors was the government could not pay the money to this private institution, or the amount of money that they are paying eventually do not get to this institution. And so I believe when we go to the old system, we need to ensure that such gaps that were in the old system are fixed, because again we'll get ourselves back into the same hole of the government is owing too much money to private institutions.
All right, and Moses, still to you, there's a comment that is coming on our platform. Someone is saying, ask Moses, because student leaders have been championing for free education all the way from primary level to tertiary level. And the person who is asking this question is asking, is this possible? But even Daktari will come to you. You tell us even whether having free education in the current state of the country, is it possible, Moses? Briefly.
I think it's possible if all, sometimes the custodians of our taxes, the custodians of everything that is collected in the country, sometimes they do mess and invest in the wrong things. If all these funds or scholarship that in different, we have CDF, I don't know, perhaps the governor has their own fund and scholarship. So if everything is consolidated, and perhaps we might be able to achieve a free education in the country.
Great. And to you, Daktari, what would you say, or what would you answer? What would be your answer to this question? Is it possible to have free education all the way? Because student leaders and university students, this is what they have been calling upon the President, Dr. William Ruto, to do: implement free education all the way. Is this possible?
Theo, it's very possible. It's very, very possible. All we need to do is to have a very candid discussion about can we allow the experts to run the education system? Can we use the information we have to make education predictable? Can we seal all the loopholes that exist in terms of corruption? With that, yes, it is possible.
Great. And lastly, as we wrap it up, in just like under 30 seconds, any recommendations that Daktari you will give to any education stakeholder watching us tonight about the state of the education? Any recommendations that you will give in under 30 seconds?
I will recommend that let us not only focus on the quantitative aspect of the education, but focus on the qualitative. The world out here is looking for problem-solving skills. The world is looking for people who are creative. The world is looking for people who will be game changers. The world is looking for an education system that will leverage much on technology and so many other things. Thank you.
All right, and also, Moses, your advice to key stakeholders in the education sector watching us tonight. Quite a number of questions streaming in, and there are some of them, maybe I can see they are key stakeholders. So your advice to key stakeholders in the education sector, what would you advise or recommend?
As I watched a video yesterday night of a road system in Japan, and most of the comments to that video were, we need to focus on an education system that creates solutions. We have very many problems, but again, these problems are an opportunity for us to shine. But the education sector or the education system in the country somehow produces people who do not really focus on producing solutions for the generation. I think there is a statement that many of us in our age group, we are very eloquent at whenever we are given an opportunity to express ourselves. Most of us are going to mention the problems that we face, but very few people are going to mention the solutions to these problems. And so I believe an education sector that produces individuals who are able to focus on the solutions to the problems that we have as a country is the best way forward. And so I believe focusing on an education sector that is more solution oriented rather than creating people who will continue mumbling about the problems that we have.
Great. Indeed, such an insightful and gentlemen, on set we had Dr. Eliud Situma, who is an educationist. He is also a lawyer and also the executive director, Trinlap Consultants Limited. And also on the other side we had Moses Rono, St. Paul's University School President. We've had quite insightful sentiments about the new funding model, also about the new competency-based curriculum, and also very great recommendations to every education stakeholder watching us tonight. Asante sana, gentlemen, for creating time and being with us in studio. It's a wrap for us tonight. Many thanks to you, our dear viewer, for creating time and joining us tonight, the 20th day of February 2025. I understand we are looking forward to seeing Daktari and Moses some other time right here in studio. Also, many thanks for tuning in across our social media platforms, on YouTube at KUTV News Kenya, on X at KUTV_Kenya. On the sign language interpretation desk during the news time was Sami Okello, and my name is Theo Mashari. We do this again next time, same place, same time. Keep it KUTV. Good night and God bless.